Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Surah Al-Hijr, chapter 15, verses 32 to 44. And these are the references, and this is our contact. Recap so far. The Quran is a complete book and it calls itself Al-Kitab and declares that what is noted within its folds is perspicuous and makes things clear to rationally thinking human beings. So in fact, as we know, Quran helps to develop our intellect. Those who resort to kufr waste their worldly life in the pursuit of things associated with physical existence and thus live at a sub-animalistic level. Now, this term sub-animalistic may be a bit harsh, but Quran itself has said that since animals do not have metacognitive ability, so they don't have choice, whereas human beings have a choice and intent, that trait, because of the divine energy within us. Hence, we need to be better than animals and not just pursue our physical desires and then die. And kufr over here means that we do not live at a human level, at a higher level, and when the message comes to us to think through it, we reject it and say, no, we will keep on following our desires. Such a life always ends in regrets and disappointments towards the end of their stay in this world. Because we come with certain cognitive dissonance, there is actually a civil war which goes on within our head all our life. And as a consequence, of course, we turn this world as well into a chaotic and world full of conflicts. So it is important for us to understand, those of us who have come to the Quran, that all those dissonances which are within us can be removed effectively by using the Quranic guidance. Events in the human world follow known laws and values, and those who make an effort can find their details and thus benefit from their life. Knowing the law is important because without knowing the law, we live a life of ignorance. It is a darkness. The time of respite is kept within the functioning of nations so that people can learn from their mistakes and mend their ways in time. In fact, this time of respite is available at an individual level as well, and we can check it. For example, if we harm someone and then forget about it, it is possible the same person will come back at some point and will try to harm us. So it is better that if we have realized this aspect of causing harm to someone, we should go to him and settle it and apologize for that. Those who pass the message of Allah to others should never be fearful being called insane or mad. Because essentially, those who reject the message of the Quran and those whom we invite towards the Quran and they don't like it, they are not reacting to us, but they are actually reacting to the message itself. People take time to accept the guidance of the Quran, and we need to understand this, that people take time. Nobody changes overnight. It takes years and years of efforts and thinking, which brings change within us. People who look for miracles in worldly life do not understand the functioning of the law of requital. In the human world, there is nothing miraculous. Each self is responsible for its deeds, and this is where we need to remain focused. The Quran is preserved and protected for all times. We went through a number of points regarding this. Mu'mineen need to make it part of their self-sense of being in order to strengthen their Eimaan. Next is there are enough resources for sustenance kept in the planet for all times for mankind. So all those people who think there are less means of sustenance and the population has increased, they are wrong. If we look at the total sum of resources even today, we will see that these are far, far more than the population we have in the planet. We need to use our intellect to utilize the available resources in the era in which we exist and make efforts to discover more. Many of these resources need to be made sustainable for all times. Next is our life in this world offers us the opportunity to either go ahead or to lag behind. It depends on our choice. However, this is within the concept of Deen. Why I said about Deen is that in the physical domain, of course, those who accumulate more resources and more means of sustenance, they are considered to be successful, whereas they are the ones who create imbalance in the world. In the concept of Deen, it is all about the development of the self, which is accessible to everyone. The issue before us is that everyone should know what is to be done about their self and what is the purpose of creation and what is the guidance given in the Quran. So at least they are apprised with the permanent values and the divine attributes. Only then they can make an informed choice. The present situation is that most of the mankind even doesn't know about the Quran and its guidance, and that is the issue before us. The competitiveness kept within us is meant to be directed towards doing solid deeds so that the whole of mankind benefits. It is through solid deeds that we develop our divine attributes within us, because these attributes are the ones through which we solve the problems. Everything in the world is created from water. Life and death in the universe follows Allah's laws, and these are kept outside the control of human hands. For example, every human self will taste death. Now let us look at the first two verses for our presentation today, 32 and 33. Being a possessor of choice and intent, all our acts are being questioned by the law of requital. It's very interesting. It is the law of requital which is looking at what we do in our life. Kala ya Ibleesu malaka Allah takuna ma sajidin. Kala lam akun li kulli astra li basharin khalaqtahu min salsalin min hamain masnoon. If you remember the previous presentation, there was the introduction to Malaika who were asked to bow before Adam, and about Iblees who transgressed, who rebelled. Allah inquired from Iblees the rebellious emotions of man. Why were you not among those who bowed before Adam? Why did you adopt transgression? Then he said that it cannot be possible for me that I bow before such a creation which is created from hollow, dark sounding clay, i.e. the material creation of man is such that his rebellious emotions remain gripping him. But because of that quintessence of divine energy, the human self that has been given to him, he becomes enabled from this so that these emotions do not overwhelm him. So over here, Iblees refused to bow before Adam, and now Allah has questioned him. So this is the way this dialogue goes with the Quran, and we should keep it in mind that this is metaphorical. But this is being displayed right in front of our eyes around us. Now, display of Ibleesi mentality, not thinking through the issues of life. Iblees is asked about his conduct here, which points to his choice and the ability to act on his choice. Malaika do not have choice, hence it becomes clear that it is about Adam and his ability to make choices in life. Some people mix it up by saying that Malaika and Iblees are the same. Iblees was one of the Malaika. But if we go through the verses of the Quran, we will see that Quran clearly differentiates between the two. And then Iblees and Shaitan both are pointed to as human inner emotions, because the acts which are associated with Iblees and Shaitan are those which we see human beings doing around us. This also means that man possesses the potential to express himself and his intention. There is the ability to use intellect and make decisions. Though in verse Al-Baqarah, verse 30th, the Quran says that Malaika said that the Malaika also commented that you are creating this Adam who is going to create chaos and will shed blood on the planet. So we can say that these are the kind of expressions of the real situation which is manifesting before our eyes in a metaphorical way. Then Iblees gives the reason for his making a different choice from what Malaika did. Here he differentiates the status of the human self from the physical self. Because Malaika accepted it, and Iblees said, why should I bow down before Adam? What is in him that I should follow his law, his commands? It is an important point which he says after understanding that Adam's physical side has originated from mud through the process of evolution, while he himself is the product of divine energy. And he says, Kala ana khairum minhu khalaqtani min narin wa khalaqtahu min teen. In another verse that is 7:12, Iblees says that I am better than him because you created me. Khalaqtani, you created me. At least he's accepting that Allah has created me, min nar, from fire, whereas you have created this Adam from mud. And it's very interesting because this is really going on as cognitive dissonance within our head as well. And of course, we need to analyze this statement even more as we progress through the Quran. I'm better than him as I am created from fire while he is created from clay. So he is making his own creation separate from the body. And this is factually the position of the human self, because it is the human self which then goes on to live beyond our physical existence. Cognitive dissonance is at display here. We experience the display of such a mentality in the world in which differentiation between equal human beings is rampant in every society. So if we look at a very basic level, so there is a discrimination over there as well, that Iblees says, I'm created from fire, and this body, which is now attached to me, why should I follow it? Why should I go for that kind of value system, which is going to be a benefit for both of us? For example, race, gender, color, tribal, parties, geographical status or geographical affinity, status, wealth, power, nationalism, religious, etc. The Quran here has pointed to one aspect, and the remainder need to be figured out by us in the world created by the unbridled human intellect. Now, verses 34, 35, the consequences of following the path of Iblees. Qala fakhruj minha fa innaka rajim wa inna alayka lanata ila yawmiddin. Allah commanded, then get out from this condition, you are deprived of every kind of blessing. If man becomes overwhelmed by his emotions and does not keep these under the obedience of the divine laws, then he remains deprived of the blessings of life. And this deprivation remains with man continuously, both in this life and in the life of the hereafter also. The respite given to Iblees needs to be challenged using the guidance of the Quran. So further reflections on these two verses, 34 and 35. What are the consequences of not staying within the permanent values sent down by Allah? Because Iblees' disobedience also points to us that we should think a bit more closely that what are the consequences if we do not stay within the permanent values and the world which we have created around us? Because some of us, I know some of us hope that within this system, if some adjustments can be made, then we may get a better world. In these two verses, the Quran has summed up three important aspects of going against the command of Allah, i.e. making wrong choices in life. Just reflect on the wording of these verses where the Quran has explained very calmly the situation to Iblees and to all of us. Firstly, it is stated that by virtue of your choice, you have excluded yourself from the benefits associated with following our value system. However, you are allowed to do this and we will not interfere with your choice. And this is something which is brilliantly stated in the Quran, that it is your word. We have given it to you. And we know that if you do not follow our revelation, wahi of Allah, then you will create problems. But we have built the system in such a way that whatever you do, the consequences are inbuilt within it. And of course, physically, you cannot go outside the planet. And whatever you do within the planet, there will always be people who will stand up against you when you will do wrong. But as is noted in our guidance, you will, as a consequence, become a regime, i.e. you will live an aimless life which will appear to be busy, but will reap nothing at the end. And this is the part of the verse I've quoted over here from Surah Al-Hijr. Alamu annamal hayatud dunya laibun wa lahbun wa zinatun tafakurun bainakum wa takasurun fil amwali wal awlad. That if you gain knowledge, if you keep your eyes open and use your perception, then you will find out that this life of yours, if you do not come to the Quran, then it becomes just a sport and entertainment. And you gain nothing. Laibun walahun, that you think that you are gaining something while you are, but at the same time, An aimless life is waste of time. Zinatun, and of course it is very attractive. Tafahurun, that you become very competitive, you envy each other, you feel like exceeding each other, bainakum, among yourself. But takasurun, and you gather and accumulate. Takasur is plenty of things and conveniences of life, and you deprive others through that. Fil amwale, in your possessions and in your children. And this is what is going on all around us. We have gone over these aspects before as well. Secondly, the appearance of the term lanato, al-lanato, which means keeping somebody away from the blessings and bounties of life, keeping away from the reality of our existence. Al-lanato has expounded the meaning of a regime, i.e., you will not be able to bring out your latent potentials in your life and will keep yourself away from those aspects of life which give life to the human self. We have gone through these aspects before as well, that these divine attributes which are mentioned in the Quran, all these are latent potentials within us, barring those, for example, Allah is the beginning and the end of all. But other than that, all those divine attributes, we are supposed to learn about them and train ourselves and then manifest them. Because once these attributes we manifest through saleh deeds, then they give us a new life. And this is what the Quran says, that in case you don't come to the Quran, then of course you will not benefit from these things. And if you don't benefit from these, then that means you will not have a self which can live on beyond your physical existence. Thirdly, do not ever think that this total freedom of yours will continue unhindered and will not be challenged. Not at all. There will arise among you people who will not join you, and they will stand up for the cause of Allah, and that will be the end of your period of respite. This is termed as Deen. So Deen is not something which will come in the life of the hereafter. That of course is true. But fact is that if we establish the system based on these permanent values and manifest these potentials which are within us, in terms of divine attributes, then this will turn into Deen. And if that era comes, as and when that comes, that means Iblees will become ineffective. Verses 36 and 38, Iblees has respite till the time that man establishes the system of Deen. Here I've quoted 3 verses. Qala rabbi fanzarni ila yawmi yubasun. Qala fa innaka minal munzarin ila yawmil waqtil ma'lum. Iblees stated that he should be given respite till the second life of man, because now he has very squarely and clearly told Allah that I'm not going to follow your laws. And since I'm not going to follow your laws, so don't end my life right now. Give me time and then see how things play out in your world. Up to that time, when he removes whatever kinds of obstructions are blocking the path of human progress and achieves true human freedom. When, after eliminating all these hurdles, man achieves true freedom according to the way of Allah, at that time his destructive emotions will not be able to dominate him. So he has been given respite, and we see that respite. In fact, at present, the Ibleesi system is well established in the world, and we can see the effects of that. The results of human striving, that is Iman plus Saleh deeds, can lead to success as noted by the Quran. Here the Quran has drawn our attention to the fact that this conduct of Iblees can be countered by following the guidance of Allah. We can relate to this state of affairs by looking at our outlook prior to coming towards the Quran and how this has transformed once we acquire Iman and strengthen it through Saleh deeds. Understanding the modus operandi of the Ibleesi system helps us to understand our potentials to stand up against battle systems. In an attractive style, it is noted here from the tongue of Iblees that I will stay in this state until I decide to be resurrected from the dead self to acquiring a new life for myself. Until that time of acquiring my life, I should be able to use my freedom to choose. Once I understand the consequences of my bad choices, then I will look for guidance. Here, by mentioning Yawma Yubasun, Besat means that something which is resurrected. The Quran has stated that an era can arrive and obstacles on the path towards the Quran can become removed through the hands of Mu'mineen. Hence, Iblees fails. Then Allah confirmed to Iblis that you are given enough time to make your choice and then live by the consequences of your individual and collective choices. That's part of the deal of creating human beings with divine energy. And this is why some of us might think that why Allah does not interfere, and to understand that why he doesn't interfere, we need to understand these verses and come to grips with the reality of the situation on ground. You can see this aspect clearly in the world where we have full freedom to choose within the confines of the man-devised systems. Verse 1538 sums it up for us as students of the Quran that if you make an effort, you will know all the precision and criterion in your life. By stating Yawmal Waqtil Malum, that this will be up to that time about which you can gain the knowledge. Malum means that you have to make an effort to know it. It's not that we keep sitting and something will just come to our mind and we will understand it. In the human world, we have to make effort. And there's plenty of knowledge in the world in the form of books and other media. The ball is put in our court to decide how long we wish to be without the system of Deen. Allah being Hayyul Qayyum has all the time in the world. It is we humans who have finite time in this life and need to strive for Deen. And we have gone through this aspect before as well, that if we start making effort, then as our understanding becomes better and better, we start to understand the problems in the world. And we also understand the significance of the system of Deen. The Quranic guidance places it squarely within our reach in one lifetime. For example, the models of Yusuf, Ibrahim, Rasulullah, and other messengers of Allah are given in the Quran, and these have been explained. And the two models we have already gone through, that is of Hazrat Yusuf and Ibrahim, both. And of course, as we go through the Quran, this is the story of Rasulullah and his companions. Let us look at the next two verses, 39-40. Iblees accuses Allah for his being astray and fatalism. So over here, Iblees accuses Allah that I have gone astray because of you, because you made me go astray. قال رب بما أغويتني لا أزينن لهم في الأرض ولا أغوينهم أجمعين إلا عبادك منهم المخلصين. He said, O my Rabb, the way in which you have deprived me from the blessings of life and blocked the path of tranquilities on me, I will also do the same, and will present the allurements and accoutrements of physical life in such an attractive manner that they will remain entangled in them, and will become totally oblivious of the higher aims of human life. And in this way, like me, they will also become deprived of the true blessings of life. Yes, and now he says, those people who will be your devotees, I will have no power over them. They will keep themselves under the obedience of Wahi, hence rebellious emotions will not be able to overwhelm them. A great lesson over here for us, and also the way world works. We have seen it that people do not like the pure Quran. They will oppose it, they will cause impediments, and they will try to hinder its path. The path of Iblis is clearly visible if we use the Quranic light. The path selected by Iblis is full of those attractions of life which distract man from coming to the straight path. The Quran has drawn our attention to this in a number of places, and I earlier quoted part of this verse. Alamu annam al-hayatud dunya wa la'ibun wa lahmun wa zinatun wa tafakhurun bainakum takasurun fil amwali wal awlad. An interesting part of verse 1539 is where Iblis accuses Allah of misguiding him. This is happening blatantly right before our eyes, where people hold on to inaccurate beliefs. And we see it in the religious world. For example, Allah has already written the fates of everyone. This is more or less in every religion, that some kind of fatalism exists. Or Allah already knows what we are going to do in our future life. Or all those who are going to be born is pre-decided at the time of the creation of the heaven and the earth, or the time of death is fixed. And there are others as well where some kind of a blanket mercy and love is associated with God, that he is going to forgive everything, or if you believe in so and so, all your sins will be forgiven. And these kind of belief systems are part of this Ibleesi attitude or Ibleesi mentality. And we see that it hampers our development. And those human beings who hold on to these beliefs, they are bound to lag behind because intellectually they are hampering their own abilities. They are not manifesting their best, and they undervalue themselves. By letting these false beliefs occupy our consciousness, we how can we understand the guidance of Allah? There's no way with these kind of beliefs one can understand the Quran. The moment we bring it in, that is the end of our understanding of the Quran. We really block it. Never. Allah declares this state of human mind as shirk and calls it inna shirka la zulmun azim. As I said in our presentation on the concept of Allah, that shirk is actually contaminating our own mind. And if our mind is not contaminated, just see how many divine attributes we will manifest in the real world and what change these will bring in the world around us. Whereas by contaminating our mind, we fail to value our own potentials, and as a result, we cannot bring best out of us. We may be able to get the successes and conveniences of this life that is of the man-made system, but there will be nothing in the hereafter, and that is why Quran says, "Innal shirka la zulmun azim," that human beings do supreme injustice to themselves by contaminating their own mind. The concept of Allah presentation has a lot into it, and I will say that we should listen to it a few times. The reason is very clear that our intellect is meant to create a new world based on Deen, and if it becomes contaminated and fails in doing this, and as a consequence creates a world of Jahim. And we know Jahim means that where we are not able to bring our best out, and in the hereafter, it means that our self will not be of that level of its eminence where it can go forward or evolve further. Then mankind suffers as a whole. And the more of these people exist in the world will remain backward and will be full of conflicts and chaos. We have seen that in this chapter, the Quran has drawn our attention to seeking knowledge in every aspect of our life on this planet. And for example, Quran has used words kitabun ma'loom, biqadarin ma'loom, ila yawmil waqtil ma'loom. If we do not understand some aspect of our life, we need to make an effort to find it out, not start making guesses and wrong assumptions in order to avoid hard work. There is no shortcut to gaining knowledge. We have to make an effort. Similarly, to get rid of all false beliefs within our intellect, within our mind, we have to make an effort and constantly challenge our own line of thinking. There is no shortcut on the path leading to the system of Deen. Reaching the state of al-Mukhlasin, devotees of Allah, we have to make efforts and do deeds so that we reach a higher state of intellect together. See, al-Mukhlasin means that we have to be, it is the assumption over there Quran is making that you are together. It's not one man's journey. Free from differences and with affinity of hearts, and we are able to see clearly the functioning of the ploys of Iblees. Because when we are together, it is not one man's efforts. Others will think and will be able to look at the problems from different angles. It is not to condemn it, but to grow out of it by coming into the light of the Quran. Growing out of the darknesses of an unguided life. Quran says, Allahu waliyul lazina amanu yukhrijuhum minadh zulumati ila nur, that Allah is the supporter, aider, and companion of those who have Iman. And once they have Iman, then He brings them out of darknesses into light. We need to keep in mind that Allah has pointed to one supreme reality here, wala ughwiyannahum ajma'in. None can escape the influence of Iblees except those who come to the Quranic guidance. So let us not remain under any doubt. It is based on visible, concrete evidence all around us. Because sometimes we hear this kind of a news, this kind of opinions that what will happen to those who do a lot of good but do not have Iman. Now, this kind of opinion or these kind of suspicions or doubts are the ones which we need to remove through our own efforts. We have to go through the Quran and make our own efforts to understand the value system which is explained in the Quran. Verses 41-42, Siraat Mustaqeem is based on clear evidence. The Quran illuminates it with science. Qala hadha siratun alayya mustaqeem. Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultanun illa man ittaba'aka minal ghawin. Allah said that the path on which the devotees will tread is the balanced and established path which will take them straight to the intended destination of life. This is that path which leads towards me. You will not be able to overwhelm these devotees of mine. You will only be able to overwhelm those who leave this balanced path and follow behind you. Their end will be annihilation. Iman needs to be firmly declared, leaving no ambiguity about its existence within ourselves. This is verses 41, 42, some further reflections. Allah declares the criterion for Siraat Mustaqeem. This is from Surah Al-Imran, verse 51. Inna Allaha Rabbi wa Rabbukum fa'buduhu haza Siratum Mustaqeem. And over here, the Quran has said from the lips of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, follow him as noted in the Quran, that is, follow Allah. Inna Allaha Rabbi, that Allah is He, my Rabb, wa Rabbukum fa'buduhu, and He is your Rabb as well, and you must follow His guidance, because that is where the path to success lies. And Haza Siratum Mustaqeem, this is the straight path. Follow him as noted in the Quran, and you will be on this path. Here the messenger declares that Allah is my Rabb and your Rabb, i.e. a statement of fact. We also reach a state in which we declare based on our own Iman that Allah is our Rabb. So for us is that we must have this firm conviction developed within us that Allah is our Rabb and we are following His laws after understanding the permanent values and displaying these divine attributes through solid deeds. Then after being on this path, He invites us to declare that Inna Rabbi ala Siratim Mustaqeem. Just see how powerful statement we make, Inna Rabbi ala Siratim Mustaqeem, that after following this path for a while, we say through the results which we get and the way ourselves develops, that firmness, that conviction within us, that this is the right path, gives us that kind of understanding where we say, Inna Rabbi ala Siratim Mustaqeem, that Allah is definitely on Siratim Mustaqeem and we are following Him. This is that state of the self-development where we come to grips with the understanding of Rububiyyat, conceptually and practically. The need for it, we understand it. Its finer aspects we understand, and we are on the path of solid deeds with the full conviction of our heart and mind. The next part of the verse points to another sign where Allah stated to us that having made the path of Iblees very clear to you, do not let anything distract you from this path of mine. And over here, a great part of this verse, Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultan, that you will never have any power on him, because he will know that such a self knows what are the inventions and concoctions of Iblees are. They will be on this path with an unwavering Iman, and they would have strengthened it by the recipe of solid deeds as noted elsewhere by the Quran. Actually, what happens is that the more we go along this path, a time comes when, if we look back, then we can see that there is no possibility of us going back to the same path which we abandoned long time back. So this is part of self-development, that it understands the things very clearly. These men of Allah, that is Mu'mineen, will be aware of the allurements and attractions of the Ibleesi path of life. Because after seeing the uselessness of these allurements and attractions, we learned that these are the ones which have created so much chaos and conflicts in the world. Of course, these are important within the value system of the Quran. Here Allah has beautifully and firmly declared to the followers of Iblees that it will not have any authority on them because they have now become Mustaqeem. What we need to understand is that it is in the use of these allurements, attractions, and conveniences of life which are to be utilized across the whole of mankind, not to be concentrated in few hands and others just envy them and look at them and remain poor and deprived. And that is a terrible situation in the world as of today. Verses 43, 44, Allah's promise is meant to be fulfilled. وَإِنَّ جَهَنَّمَ لَا مَوْعِدُهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ لَهَا سَبْعَةُ أَبْوَابٍ لِكُلِّ بَابٍ مِنْهُمْ جُزْءٌ مَقْسُومٌ. Surely there is a hell made of destruction for all of them, and they are bound to reach there. Destruction will indeed be alike for all, but the people to reach it will be different. Every group among them will have a separate path from which they will enter the destruction of Jahannam, i.e. Siraat Mustaqeem, which leads to Jannat, is only one, but when it is abandoned, then the wrong paths are numerous, and different people reach destruction via different paths. And we can see that in the world. The correct point for target is only one. There can be many wrong points on the target. There is only one target for the bull's eye. There is one correct answer. Wrong answers are countless. I thought this is a beautiful sentence which Allama Pervez has noted down in the meanings of the Quran volume 7. There is one correct answer. Wrong answers are countless. As we said before as well, that the word is very precise and accurate. It's only we find people, those who do not understand the functioning of the law of requital, think things are at random and they are based on chance. There's nothing on chance. Everything is extremely mathematical. The Deen of Allah is one. The self-made religions of men are many, and this is the reason that there can be no sects in Deen. There cannot be any sects, because having sects is landing ourselves in hell. Now, looking at some more aspects of these two verses, 43 and 44, human beings create hell themselves. While living a life of hell, they complain as well. And this is interesting. We see it all around in the world that people are unhappy, and at the same time, they complain about it and then do nothing about it. And when the message of the Quran is presented, even to limited people or contexts around us, they also reject. Most of them reject it. They look at you with a blank look. Over here, our attention is drawn to the fate of the people who follow the wrong aims of life. They all land in a hell created by human hands. This hell has two aspects. The physical part of it, where human beings create wars, chaos, conflicts, imbalances in the world, etc. The second part is the fear and grief, which is khawf and huzn. Huzn is something within us, which is we can feel cognitively, like anxiety and fright, uncertainty, doubt, suspicions. All these are related to huzn, and these have impact on us, created at the cognitive level, which keeps people suffering from anxiety and uncertainty. This creates psychological disorders. Iblees represents the state of negative effects of human ill deeds on their self. It has numerous forms. In this also, human beings have choices, but about what kind of evil they wish to have for themselves and for their families, societies, and nations. For example, in today's world, the leaders in every state deliberately plan evil, then execute it knowingly, but project it as something good, i.e. under the label of good. Because if they present it as an evil and saying that what we are creating now is going to harm you in the long run, and it might even shorten your life, then nobody is going to believe them. In fact, they will come out on the streets and protest and remove them. But wherever evil has gone beyond a certain limit, people do stand up and come on the roads and come onto the streets. The general public accepts it as they do not use their eyes, hearing, and intellect. And Quran has pointed to this fact that they are given all this intellect, hearts, minds, and eyes, and ears, and other faculties, but they do not use it. And we are witnessing all this in the world around us. By mentioning the term ajma'in, the Quran has left no exception. It has stated that the path of Iblees is the path of perdition for all. This is something on which we need to think profoundly, that firstly, by not coming to the path of the Quran, we remain on the path of ruin, and this life being finite will terminate in our death. Secondly, by staying away from this path, we do not get those pleasures of life which are exclusively associated with the path of Allah. And this aspect will be covered in our next presentation. Thirdly, we help to perpetuate evils in the world, which need the aid of as many mu'mineen as possible to counter these. Fourthly, we fail to provide a solid role model for our children and do not let them have an informed choice based on the Quran. In the second verse, we need to be aware that there are many paths leading to hell, but there is only one straight path. If we are not together on the path where hearts are becoming united through our efforts, then we are still far from the understanding of the Quran as a system of Deen. Finally, a few points to remind ourselves. The path of the Quran is not an easy one because those who call themselves Muslims have abandoned it many centuries ago, and as a consequence, we see the word as noted by Allah, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. The chaos created by human hands is inviting us to do something about it. Over here, Quran has said that fasad, chaos, has appeared in the land and on the seas through the hands of human beings. Bima kasabat aydin nas, Iblees hands. And because of this, now they are going to taste the consequences of what they are doing. And we can see that around us. They are all tasting it. And we are witnessing that as well. But we know why it is happening. And Quran says that Allah is waiting. The law of requital is waiting that maybe they learn lesson and come back and stop doing what they are doing. If we notice it and then think that let someone else do it, then we need to stop complaining as well. At least, even if results do not materialize in our life, at least we can stand up and say we did our best within the means available to us. We should wait for someone else to rise and do it. And if this does not happen in our life, we somehow survive the evil created by others, then good for us. However, if we see clearly that through the Quran it is possible to bring about change by following the procedure and process explained in it, then we need to first understand this quickly and start working towards it with those who are striving on this path. First is illallazina amanu wa amilus salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. This is from Surah Al-Hijr. And the Quran makes an exception, except those, because Quran says that man is in loss, is in a perpetual loss, and this is proven by the history as well, by the passing of time. But except those who do good deeds after accepting Iman, and then what they do is watawasaw bil haqqi watawasaw bis sabr, because they are coming together, they promote haqq and they also remain steadfast. Sabr over here means to stay steadfast. Never think of giving up. The next verse I've quoted over here is La ikraha fi deen. There is no compulsion in deen. We are on this path by choice. And we have a choice to give up this path as well. And loss will be ours. Then Quran says, Qad tabayyana rushdu min al-ghayy. The tabayyana is very clearly enlightened. This path is illuminated of rushd and ghayy. The wrong path is illuminated as well as the right path. The one who does kufr to tagut, who moves away from the evil system, human billah, and holds on to Allah's rope, Allah's book, he is held on to a very strong, unbreakable handhold, which is never going to let us down, which will never break. And we should just stay here and see what happens. Wallahu Sami'un Alim, and Allah is Sami'un Alim. And if we are also Sami'un Alim, we can understand it. Secondly, developing a firm resolve that we will never be in the company of those who are and will be in Jahim. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ الْجَحِيمِ. Those who have decided not to develop their self and think that the life will end with death, we are interacting with them because we are in the same world, but of course we should understand it clearly. Initially, dissociate intellectually. Recognizing the signs of Jahim is part of our self-development. Life emerges from death according to the law of Allah, and Quran says, يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ وَيُحْيِي الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا وَكَذَلِكَ تُخْرَجُونَ. Beautiful verse over here, completely puts light on life and death, that it is out of life comes death, out of death comes life, and it is just like the earth, which is dead, and the moment water comes over it, the life comes out of it. And if we do the same, as we have gone through it under the concept of Allah, that if we bring Iman within us, the life will emerge. The life has already emerged. And once we keep doing solid deeds, this life will become stronger and stronger and is going to come to fruition at some point in time in the future. The laws of life and death are clearly defined. However, for this life to emerge, the seed should have the potential to grow. With that, I come to the end of this presentation. Thanks for your time and for listening and for sharing this.